Hi, Rick Seymour back with you. Is it time for you to become a B-plus person? Perfectionism and the paralysis of analysis are two of the biggest stumbling blocks to success that many people trip over. There's an old adage that says, good enough is good enough. For those wanting to move ahead in their lives, it's a good saying to live by. By the way, my grandfather always put it this way, Rick, you've got to learn to be a B-plus person. What does that really mean? Well, when I watched my grandfather work, he was a painter and a remodeler. I was always amazed at how much he got done and how fast he worked. The end result was rarely anything like an A-plus job, but the customers were always happy with not only the end result, but also the fact that they didn't have to wait nearly as long for the job to be done as they would have if it had been a typical contractor. Yet there are times when an A-plus job is called for, but the law of diminishing returns says that the extra effort required to get there in most cases just isn't worth it. I started my working life as an aerospace engineer. I worked on a multitude of NASA projects involving manned spaceflight. When people's lives are at stake, it is entirely appropriate to get as close to perfection as possible. I was responsible for the failure modes and effects analysis. We spent months and sometimes years trying to anticipate every conceivable thing that could go wrong, from a hardware failure to an astronaut flipping switches in the wrong order. We built in redundancy in every system. We had backup plans for every contingency. We tried to anticipate every emergency that might occur. Everything was done by committee and took forever to make decisions. For the space program, it was an entirely appropriate way to work. The problem was that I carried that into my business life when I decided to go out on my own and become an entrepreneur. The end result of that type of exhaustive analysis and striving for perfection was that I rarely got anything started, and on occasions that I started, I almost never finished. Very few businesses or jobs or goals in this world require that level of perfection. When people get caught in that trap, it's much like waiting for all the lights to turn green before you leave home. You'll never leave. There are lots of ways that perfectionism manifests itself. Wanting to know the answer to every conceivable question someone might ask you before you're willing to go out and make a presentation to a potential client. Having to have your desk perfectly organized before you'll pick up the phone to call a prospect. Spending hours and hours on your PowerPoint presentation getting all the colors and the graphics just right in order to avoid actually having to talk to anyone. The list goes on and on. You see, the 80-20 rule, Pareto's law, applies in most areas of our lives and businesses and is certainly appropriate when you think about managing your time and accomplishing anything significant. About 80% of the time, a B-plus job is probably good enough. Learn to recognize the 80%. Learn to triage your schedule. Just get the 80% done as quickly as possible. You will accomplish a lot more if you learn to become a B-plus person. If you'd like more information and resources on this topic, go to godinyourgoals.com.